Aloha everyone, what's really good my dudes? Welcome to another RuneScape news coverage video. For this video we're going to be talking about a couple of interviews with Mod Osborne with a couple of gaming websites. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. Let's go.
Cats is the illest. What you talking about, Willis?
Alright guys, this gives us some insight to Godwars Dungeon 3, or the Elder Godwars Dungeon. We are getting a Leads QA next week, and Mod Warden's going to be on it, and he tends to give away a lot of good information, so it's likely we're going to hear more about this topic next week, and I'll cover it here on the channel when that happens. But this has been brought to my attention from the Reddit user Gaga Lady on Reddit with a post, and I'll have a link to the articles down in the description below if you want to read them in their entirety, because they talk about a bunch of topics, but we're going to focus on the Elder Godwars Dungeon for now. Starting off with the interview on thegamer.com, question was, how about the Elder Godwars storyline? Anything you're free to discuss? Mod Osborne replied, it's a story that they've been building for some time. In 2014, the players got to meet their very first Elder God, and since then there's been speculation about when these titans who built the universe might rise again. We started the process of waking them up with Desperate Times in May of 2019, and 2021 is all about them arriving in the game with a bang. We have several quests and mini-quests that build up to their arrival. And then we launched the Elder Godwars Dungeon, a huge experience in a buried city, where the players will confront these gods with their friends and allies. There will be more quests afterwards to solve that small issue, and the whole narrative arc will take us through much of 2021. It's exciting to design, as we have rarely clothed an entire year in a single story, but we're excited about where we are taking our players. So a couple of interesting things to note with this particular article. So there's going to be several quests and mini quests even before the launch of Elder Godwars Dungeon, which means to me that it's likely we're going to get the actual dungeon itself in the latter half of the year, or at the earliest maybe mid-summer of the year, but definitely not in the first half if we're expecting a couple of quests and mini-quests beforehand. Not to mention that we just had Raksha last year in December, so it's still very fresh, and I imagine they would want to space out the combat experiences just a little bit, which is another reason why I see them putting it towards the backer end of the year. And we're also getting a couple of quests afterwards, so I don't think it's going to be on the very tail end of 2021. Probably third quarter-ish if I had to guess. Also, it says it's going to be in a buried city, which is very interesting. I wonder where that's going to be. A lot of people are speculating Santistan. I could definitely see that, because Zaros has something up his sleeve with the Elder Gods. He wanted to become an Elder God and got denied, so he's definitely up to something, and I could definitely see it taking place in Santistan as a way to introduce the city without having to create another Prifddinas, but still have an environment that's worth exploring and rich with lore. And also, you know, a bunch of combat activities as well. Also, if it does end up being Santistan, a lot of people speculated that the fifth boss, or the next or Telos of this Godwars dungeon, is going to be Zautak, which I could definitely see. But given that it might be Santistan, does that change your mind? Do you think that maybe it could be something else, or a different god? Maybe Zaros would be involved in some way? Do let me know any ideas you have about that in the comments below. Love to hear what kind of things you can come up with. So, very interesting stuff with this first article. Let me know what you guys think about it. What do you think the buried city is? What time of the year do you think we can expect the Elder Godwars Dungeon? And do you like this approach where they're taking this single year and making it all about Elder Gods? Now, having said that, we're going to shift on over to the second article, and that's on the website mspoweruser.com, where the article reads, perhaps the most anticipated update of 2021 is the Elder Godwars Dungeon. It was originally planned for a 2020 release, but development complications and COVID have seen it pushed back to this year instead. But if Osborne's excitement is anything to go by, I think there's plenty of reason to still look forward to it. If you're identifying an iconic element of RuneScape that's worth celebrating, the Godwars dungeons are one of the biggest. Players love them as they're very social, and you can mass bosses with as many friends as you'd like. It's a very communal combat experience. This year we want to apply that to the Elder Gods. We're going to create a trigger event next year that causes the eggs in the center of Gielinor to hatch, and when they do, The universe itself will be ripped apart and remade. That is the premise of the Elder Godwars Dungeon, which will act as a centerpiece of the year. For context, the Godwars Dungeons are bossing-oriented areas where the player is tasked with taking down representatives of Gilinor's many gods. Several of RuneScape's most iconic characters such as Krill Tsutsaroth and Vindicta have began life as Godwars Dungeon bosses. Despite debuting all the way back in 2007, the original Godwars Dungeon is still relevant content to this day. For a bossing update to have lasted so long is seriously impressive given the natural power creep a game like RuneScape has experienced. The intent remains for Elder Godwars Dungeon to be mass spawn, so it's hard to apply a difficulty because you can come in with your mates and overkill the boss. But we are looking at it from a step beyond Godwars Dungeon 2. It will be a little harder, but we're taking a different approach with the Elder Godwars Dungeon. I can't reveal too much yet, but skillers will be able to get involved too. It's not necessarily all combat oriented. Also, we want to make the mob fighting more interesting than the other dungeons where you just aim to fulfill a kill count. So with this article, even more juicy things to get into. First off, from a lore perspective, the Elder Godwars eggs are going to hatch, which obviously poses a huge threat to all of Gilinor, and that's going to be a huge narrative focus throughout 2021, and how we solve and overcome that is going to be quite interesting to say the least. From a combat perspective, it's revealed that it's going to be massable just like the other Godwars dungeons. That's pretty expected at this point, so not particularly a big reveal there. However, they say that in terms of difficulty in and of itself, it is aimed to be slightly harder than Godwars Dungeon 2 and those general bosses. How much harder? Really hard to say at this point. But they also go on to say that skillers can get involved in some way, which will be very interesting. I can imagine something like archaeology taking a place that'll give us an even more in-depth and deeper look at the lore of wherever this buried city is, if it is in Distin, possibly. And finally, they're trying to change up how you get kill count as opposed to just getting a certain kill count and going on to the boss. So the whole mob experience is going to be different in some way. I'm really interested to see exactly how that's going to be implemented, if it's going to be something like anything we've seen in the past or an entirely new system. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about that. And that's pretty much it in terms of Elder Godwars Dungeon from these articles. I will, once again, as I said, link these in the description below so you can read them entirely for yourself. It's not just Elder Godwars stuff that's worth looking at, so do check them out. And yet again, let me know in the comments anything that you took away from any of these articles, what you're excited for the most with the Elder Godwars and the whole God Wars story arc in 2021. So sound off, love to hear from you. I'm going to wrap up the video there. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed yet and you want to stay up to date on all things RuneScape related, then hit that subscribe button. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I am out. Aloha.